Hello, and welcome to Master Self-Love and Inner Confidence, brought to you by Liberty Audiobook. What if I told you that the single most important relationship you will ever have in your entire life is not with your partner, your family, or your friends, with yourself? What if I told you that every failure, every missed opportunity, every moment of self-doubt, and every time you have settled for less than you deserve, all stems from one fundamental problem? You do not truly love yourself. You can spend years giving your energy to the world, trying to meet expectations, trying to be everything for everyone, and still feel like something essential is missing. That missing piece is almost always the same. You have not learned to love yourself the way you deserve to be loved. Not with ego, not with pride, but with a deep, steady commitment to your own well-being, the kind that becomes the foundation for every meaningful part of your life. Most people spend their entire lives seeking love, validation, and acceptance from others, never realizing that the love they are desperately searching for can only come from within. They chase relationships, achievements, and external validation, thinking that once they get enough approval from the outside world, they will finally feel worthy. But here is the brutal truth. If you do not love yourself, no amount of external love will ever be enough. Self-love is not a luxury. It is not a soft idea for quiet moments. It is a life skill. It is a form of strength. It is the ability to stand with yourself even when the world misunderstands you, doubts you, or asks you to shrink. The people who truly succeed, who radiate confidence, who attract the right opportunities and relationships, who seem unshakable no matter what life throws at them, they all have one thing in common. They have mastered the art of self-love. Not the superficial Instagram quote version, but the deep, unshakable, scientifically backed kind that transforms everything. The moment you finally choose yourself, your life begins to change in ways you could never imagine. This audiobook is your companion on that journey, a journey back to your truth, your peace, and your power. In the coming chapters, we will break down the barriers we have built around your heart, uncover the beliefs that have held you back, and rebuild the inner foundation that makes you stronger, calmer, and more confident than ever before. You will learn how to protect your peace, honor your needs, forgive your past, and become someone you trust fully. This is not just about feeling better. It is about transforming the relationship you have with the one person who never leaves your side, yourself. When that relationship becomes healthy, everything in your life begins to reflect it. Your decisions, your habits, your relationships, your boundaries, your dreams. So, take a breath, settle into this moment. You are here because a part of you knows it is time to stop abandoning yourself and start choosing yourself. You are ready to build a life anchored in self-respect and guided by genuine inner love. By the time you finish this audiobook, you will understand the psychology behind self-love, why most people struggle with it, and most importantly, how to build an unbreakable relationship with yourself that becomes your greatest competitive advantage in life. This is not just about feeling good. This is about rewiring your brain for success, confidence, and genuine happiness. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The undeniable truth. Your most vital relationship is with yourself. There comes a point in every person's life when they realize they have been living everywhere except within themselves. You may have been living in expectations, living in pressure, living in the fear of disappointing others, living in the noise of the world, but not living in your own inner home. And that is where this journey truly begins, by returning to the place you have quietly abandoned. Here is a startling truth. Studies show that over 85% of people have low self-esteem and struggle with self-acceptance. That means the vast majority of humans on this planet are walking around with a fundamental rejection of who they are. They do not like themselves. They do not trust themselves. And they certainly do not love themselves. Most people do not even realize this is their problem. They think their issues stem from other people, from circumstances, from bad luck, or from not having enough money, success, or recognition. They spend years trying to fix everything external while completely ignoring the internal foundation that determines everything else. Think about it this way. If you had a friend who constantly criticized you, told you that you were not good enough, reminded you of every mistake you would ever made, and never believed in your potential, would you want to spend time with that person? Would you trust their judgment? Would you feel confident and motivated around them? Of course not. Yet, this is exactly how most people treat themselves every single day. The voice in your head, your internal dialogue, is often more cruel and destructive than your worst enemy would ever be. This internal relationship, this constant self-rejection and self-criticism, creates a cascade of problems that affect every area of your life. When you do not love yourself, you make decisions from a place of unworthiness. You accept less than you deserve because deep down you do not believe you deserve better. You stay in toxic relationships because you do not think you are worthy of healthy love. You do not pursue your dreams because you do not believe you are capable of achieving them. Returning home to yourself means stopping long enough to hear your own heartbeat again, to hear your truth without the static of the world. It means slowing down, even just for a moment, and asking yourself, what do I really feel? What do I really want? What have I been avoiding? These questions may sound simple, but they take courage. They take honesty. And they take a willingness to sit with yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable at first. The world does not teach you how to accept yourself. It teaches you how to improve your appearance, how to fix your flaws, how to compare and compete, how to silence your feelings to maintain control. You are told you must earn love, prove your value, and gain permission to be yourself. But this is not true. You were born worthy. You do not have to earn love. You need to allow it. You do not have to prove yourself. You need to understand yourself. You do not have to gain permission. You need to give it. Embracing your true self means stepping away from this noise and facing the mirror without filters, lies, or masks. It means honoring the person you are, not the person others want you to be. This is not about being selfish. It is about being honest. The more honest you are with yourself, the more whole you become. When you know yourself, really know yourself, decisions become easier, boundaries become clearer, confidence becomes natural, because you are no longer navigating life from a place of confusion or fear. You are navigating it from a place of alignment. Returning home to yourself also means reclaiming the pieces of you that you have been told to hide. Maybe you were taught that your sensitivity was a weakness. Maybe you were taught that your ambition was too much, but those are often the truest parts of who you are, and they do not disappear. They wait for the day you decide to stop apologizing for yourself and start embracing yourself. Remember this, returning home to yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. When you are disconnected from yourself, you give to the world from a place of emptiness. But when you are connected to yourself, you give from overflow, from clarity, from strength. You show up better in your relationships, in your work, in your decisions. You become grounded, steady, centered, and people feel the difference. You feel the difference. This is where your real transformation begins. Chapter 2: The Roots of Self-Rejection, Brain, Biology, and Childhood Blueprints. To understand how to build genuine self-love, we need to first understand what is happening in your brain when you experience self-worth versus self-rejection. Neuroscience has revealed fascinating insights about how our brains process self-related thoughts and emotions, and this knowledge gives us a roadmap for rewiring our internal relationship. When you think positively about yourself, your brain's reward centers light up, releasing dopamine and serotonin, the same chemicals associated with joy, satisfaction, and well-being. This is not just feel-good psychology, it is measurable brain chemistry. Neuroimaging studies show that people who practice self-compassion have increased activity in regions associated with emotional regulation, motivation, and resilience. Conversely, when you engage in self-criticism or self-rejection, your brain activates the same regions that respond to physical pain. This is why harsh self-judgment literally hurts, and why people often describe emotional pain in physical terms: heartbreak, gut-wrenching, crushing disappointment. Your brain cannot distinguish between physical threats and emotional ones, so self-attack triggers the same stress response as being chased by a predator. This chronic activation of your stress response system has devastating effects on your health, decision-making ability, and overall life satisfaction. When your brain is in threat mode, it shuts down higher-order thinking functions like creativity, strategic planning, and emotional regulation. You become reactive instead of responsive, making decisions from fear rather than wisdom. Kristin Neff's groundbreaking research on self-compassion has shown that people who treat themselves with kindness have lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone that wreaks havoc on your immune system, sleep, and cognitive function. They also show increased heart rate variability, a marker of emotional resilience and the ability to adapt to stress. But here is where it gets really interesting. The brain's neuroplasticity means that you can literally rewire these patterns. Every time you choose self-compassion over self-criticism, you strengthen neural pathways associated with self-acceptance. Every time you speak to yourself with kindness, you are building new brain connections that make self-love more automatic and natural. The default mode network, a network of brain regions active when you are not focused on external tasks, plays a crucial role in self-related thinking. In people with depression and anxiety, this network often generates repetitive negative thoughts about the self. However, meditation and mindfulness practices can alter the activity of this network, reducing self-critical rumination and increasing self-accepting awareness. Oxytocin, often called the love hormone, is released not just during bonding with others, but also during self-compassionate moments. When you comfort yourself during difficult times, your brain releases the same bonding chemicals that create feelings of safety and connection in relationships. This is why self-love is not selfish. It is actually preparing your brain to love others more effectively. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, becomes less reactive in people who practice self-compassion. This means you are less likely to perceive threats where none exist, less likely to take things personally, and more able to respond to challenges with clarity rather than panic. Understanding this science is crucial because it shows that self-love is not a luxury or self-indulgence. It is a biological necessity for optimal brain function. When you love yourself, you're not being weak or selfish. You are creating the neurochemical conditions for peak performance, emotional resilience, and authentic happiness. Now, how did these patterns of self-rejection get wired in the first place? Every human being is born with an innate sense of worth and self-acceptance. Watch any baby or toddler, and you will see perfect self-love in action. So what happens? The answer lies in the programming you received during your most formative years, when your brain was literally being shaped by every interaction, message, and experience. Your early caregivers, despite their best intentions, likely passed on their own unhealed wounds and unconscious patterns. If your parents struggled with self-love, they could not teach you what they did not know. If they were raised in environments where love was conditional on performance, they unconsciously recreated those same conditions for you. Perhaps you learned that love had to be earned through achievement. Maybe you got attention and praise when you succeeded, but were ignored or criticized when you failed. Your young brain, desperate for survival and connection, internalized the message that your worth was dependent on your performance. This created a lifelong pattern of seeking external validation and never feeling good enough. Or maybe you learned that your emotions were inconvenient or wrong. Perhaps when you cried, you were told to stop being dramatic. When you expressed anger, you were punished. Your brain learned that parts of your authentic self were unacceptable, creating internal rejection of your own emotional experience. The trauma of not being seen and accepted for who you truly are creates what Dr. Gabor-Mate calls the authentic self-wound. Your authentic self gets buried under layers of adaptive strategies designed to keep you safe and connected. But these strategies, while necessary for childhood survival, become prison walls that prevent genuine self-expression and self-love in adulthood. The development of shame plays a crucial role in self-rejection. Shame is not just feeling bad about something you did, it is feeling bad about who you are. When children are repeatedly made to feel that they are fundamentally flawed or wrong, shame becomes a core part of their identity. Perfectionism often develops as a defense against this deep shame. The inner critic, that harsh voice in your head, is often an internalized version of critical voices from your past. It might sound like a parent, teacher, or sibling who was particularly harsh, or it might be a compilation of all the critical messages you received now running on autopilot in your mind. Understanding this programming is crucial because it helps you realize that self-rejection is not your fault and it is not the truth about who you are. These patterns were survival adaptations that helped you navigate difficult circumstances. But what was adaptive then may be destructive now, and it is time to consciously choose new patterns that serve your adult self. The good news is that neuroplasticity means your brain can change at any age. The patterns laid down in childhood are strong, but they are not permanent. With conscious effort and the right tools, you can rewire your brain for self-acceptance and genuine self-love. You can become the loving parent to yourself that you may not fret, giving yourself the unconditional acceptance that every human being deserves. Chapter 3. Reclaiming your sovereignty, breaking free from external validation. Sometimes the greatest damage does not come from what others do. It comes from what you do to yourself in an attempt to keep others happy. One of the most painful ways people harm themselves is through self-abandonment. You abandon your feelings to keep the peace. You abandon your needs to avoid conflict. You abandon your dreams to meet expectations. You abandon your boundaries because you fear losing love, losing acceptance, losing connection. And after years of doing this, you look in the mirror and realize you have moved so far away from yourself that you hardly recognize who you have become. This is the prison of external validation, an addiction so prevalent that most people do not even recognize it as a problem. They think it is normal to need approval from others, to feel good about themselves only when others praise them, and to base their self-worth on external achievements and recognition. But here is the truth. As long as your sense of worth depends on external factors, you will never experience genuine self-love. You would be trapped in an endless cycle of seeking approval, temporary satisfaction when you get it, and devastating emptiness when you do not. You will be living your life for other people's opinions, rather than your own values and desires. External validation addiction shows up in countless ways. Maybe you cannot make decisions without asking multiple people for their opinions first. Perhaps you constantly check social media for likes and comments, feeling deflated when your posts do not get the response you hoped for. You might stay in jobs, relationships, or living situations that do not fulfill you because they look good to others. Some people become high achievers, not because they're passionate about their goals, but because achievement brings recognition and admiration. They climb the ladder of success only to discover that each rung requires even more validation to maintain their sense of worth. They become prisoners of their own success, unable to slow down or change direction without feeling like failures. Others become people pleasers, saying yes when they want to say no, agreeing with opinions they do not share, and molding themselves into whatever shape they think will gain approval. They lose touch with their own preferences, desires, and boundaries in their desperate attempt to be liked and accepted. But here is the truth you have been avoiding. The approval you chase will never compensate for the self-respect you lose. The world will always have more demands, more opinions, more expectations. There will always be someone who disagrees with your choices, someone who wants more from you, someone who does not understand you. And if you let every one of those voices dictate your actions, you will spend your entire life running from conflict, running from disappointment, running from yourself. But the person you can never outrun is you. That is why self-abandonment falls so heavy. That is why it leaves a hollow ache inside you, because deep down, a part of you knows you betrayed your own truth. Approval feels safe in the moment. It gives you a temporary sense of belonging, but it comes with a cost. You teach the world that you will shrink yourself to be accepted. You teach people that your boundaries are flexible. You teach them that your needs come second. And once you set that pattern, it becomes the default. Breaking free from this addiction requires recognizing that external validation can never fill the void of self-rejection. No amount of praise, approval, or recognition from others can substitute for your own self-acceptance. The path to freedom begins with understanding the difference between appreciation and validation. Appreciation is when you enjoy and value recognition from others without needing it for your sense of worth. Validation addiction is when you require approval from others to feel okay about yourself. Developing internal validation means learning to be your own source of approval and encouragement. It means celebrating your own growth, acknowledging your own efforts, and being proud of yourself, regardless of whether anyone else notices or cares. It means trusting your own judgment and making decisions based on your values rather than others' opinions. This does not mean becoming arrogant or dismissive of feedback. Healthy self-love actually makes you more open to constructive criticism because your worth is not threatened by suggestions for improvement. When you love yourself, you can hear feedback without taking it as a personal attack on your character. When you break free from the validation addiction, you reclaim your power. You stop giving others control over your emotional state and self-worth. Both become internally referenced rather than externally dependent. This is one of the most crucial steps in developing genuine, unshakable self-love. You have to decide what matters more, temporary approval or long-term self-respect. One gives you comfort for a moment, the other gives you peace for a lifetime. And that peace comes when you say with full conviction, I refuse to leave myself behind ever again. That is the moment your life begins to shift. That is the moment self-love becomes real. And that is the moment you start living as someone who values themselves deeply, not because the world approves of you, but because you finally approve of yourself. Chapter 4. Rewriting your story. Confronting lies and forgiving your past self. If you want to learn to love yourself more than anything else, you have to start by confronting the myths, the assumptions, and the quiet lies that have shaped how you see yourself. The truth is, most people are walking around with a distorted sense of worth that did not even come from inside them. It came from childhood moments, from other people's opinions, from comparisons, from painful experiences, from environments that taught them to question their value instead of recognize it. Some of these lies are so familiar, so deeply woven into your identity that you may not even notice how often you repeat them. You may not hear yourself whispering, "I am not enough," but that belief shows up in every fear, every hesitation, every moment you shrink. You may not say out loud, "I do not deserve better," but that thought is there every time you settle for less than what you want. Confronting these lies begins with recognizing that worth is not something you earn. Worth is not something someone else gives you. Worth is not something that increases when you succeed or decreases when you fail. Worth simply is. It is inherent. It is part of you. But life is a way of covering that truth with layers of doubt, insecurity, criticism, and comparison. So your job now is to peel those layers back, to look at the beliefs you have been carrying and ask, where did this come from? When you confront the lies you have believed about your worth, something powerful happens. You begin to reclaim control of your inner world. You begin to see that the thoughts you have accepted for years were never facts. They were interpretations. They were unexamined beliefs. And once you expose them to the light, they lose their power. This chapter is not about blaming your past. It is about freeing yourself from it. It is about taking responsibility for your inner healing. It is about saying, I may have believed these things once, but I do not have to believe them anymore. There comes a time in your life when you must look at the person you used to be and say, thank you, but I cannot stay there anymore. Growth requires release, not rejection, not hatred, not shame. Release. Because the truth is, you are not who you were 5 years ago, or even 1 year ago, or even a month ago. You have learned, you have stretched, you have endured, you have evolved. But if you keep tying yourself to old identities, old stories, old mistakes, old habits, and old fears, you will keep living a life that no longer fits the person you are becoming. Most people struggle with self-love because they are still carrying versions of themselves that were built for survival, not fulfillment. These versions of you were not failures. They were protectors. They helped you navigate storms you did not know how to navigate. But those storms are no longer here. The danger is gone. The patterns are outdated. Yet the identity remains unless you choose to let it go. Releasing your past self means acknowledging that you have outgrown certain behaviors and mindsets. Sometimes the hardest version of yourself to release is the one defined by past mistakes. You replay old moments and punish yourself for decisions you made when you were less aware, less healed, less mature. You carry guilt like it is a responsibility and shame like it is a permanent part of your identity. But holding on to old mistakes does not make you wise. It makes you stuck. You do not become better by reliving regret. You become better by learning from it and moving forward. The past version of you did not fail you. They taught you. They prepared you. They did the best they could with the awareness they had at the time. And now, with new awareness, you choose differently. You cannot keep punishing yourself for the things you did not know back then. You were doing the best you could with the understanding, the tools, and the awareness you had at that time. Looking back with regret may feel like you are holding yourself accountable, but there is a difference between accountability and self-punishment. Real growth does not come from endlessly criticizing yourself. It comes from being honest about your mistakes, learning what you needed to learn, and then allowing yourself to move forward without dragging the weight of guilt everywhere you go. Forgiveness is not about pretending nothing happened. It is about acknowledging what happened without using it as a weapon against yourself every day. The path to healing is not paved with perfection. It is built on patience, and forgiveness is a form of patience, a deep, quiet decision to stop picking at the same emotional scabs. You do not need to live in fear to grow. You need awareness. And awareness comes when you can look at your past with compassion, not condemnation. It takes strength to say, I did things I am not proud of, but I am not going to let those things define who I am now. That is not denial. That is evolution. Letting go does not mean forgetting. You may still carry memories. You may still feel regret. That is normal, but regret is not meant to be a permanent state of mind. It is meant to point you toward better decisions, deeper wisdom, and greater empathy for yourself and others. You become kinder when you stop fighting with your past. You start showing up in a more grounded way. Your energy softens. You become someone you can trust again. You are not the sum of your mistakes. You are not defined by your failures. You are not limited by the moments when you did not know better. Your worth does not rise and fall. It stays. It remains. It belongs to you. And once you confront these lies, truly confront them, you open the door to a life where self-love is not something you chase, but something you live. A life where you finally recognize deeply and unshakably that you were worthy, long before anyone ever tried to convince you otherwise. Chapter 5. The 4 Pillars: Self-Awareness, Acceptance, Compassion, and Care. Now that you understand the barriers to self-love, it is time to build a foundation that will support genuine, lasting self-acceptance. This is not about positive thinking or superficial affirmations. This is about creating a systematic approach to developing an unshakable relationship with yourself based on psychological principles and neuroscience. The foundation of self-love rests on 4 pillars: self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-compassion, and self-care. Each pillar supports and strengthens the others, creating a stable base from which authentic self-love can grow. Self-awareness is the first pillar, because you cannot love what you do not know. Most people are strangers to themselves, operating on autopilot without really understanding their thoughts, emotions, patterns, and motivations. They react to life from unconscious programming rather than conscious choice. Developing self-awareness means becoming the observer of your own experience, studying yourself with curiosity rather than judgment. Start by noticing your internal dialogue throughout the day. What tone do you use when speaking to yourself? Are you encouraging and supportive, or critical and harsh? Pay attention to your emotional patterns. What triggers anger, sadness, fear, or joy in you? Notice how your emotions affect your body, your energy, and your decision-making. Observe your behavioral patterns. What habits do you have that serve you, and which ones sabotage you? How do you react in relationships when you feel hurt or misunderstood? Healing begins with honesty. It means admitting that something hurt you. It means admitting that certain experiences shaped your behavior, your choices, your relationships. It means acknowledging that some of your habits are not habits at all. They are coping mechanisms. You're not overthinking. You're trying to protect yourself. You're not too emotional. You have been holding in feelings for years. Self-acceptance is the second pillar, and it perhaps the most challenging for people who have been conditioned to believe they need to earn love through improvement. Self-acceptance does not mean giving up on growth or becoming complacent. It means acknowledging reality without resistance, embracing your humanity, and loving yourself as you are right now, not as you hope to become. True self-acceptance means embracing your shadows as well as your light. You have aspects of your personality that you might not particularly like, but rejecting them only gives them more power. When you accept your jealousy, your fears, your insecurities, and your flaws as part of your human experience, you can work with them consciously rather than being controlled by them unconsciously. Self-acceptance also means accepting your past. You cannot change what has already happened, but you can change your relationship to it. Forgive yourself for past mistakes, not because they were okay, but because holding on to shame and regret prevents you from moving forward. Self-compassion is the third pillar, and it is the antidote to the inner critic that has been running your life. Kristin Neff defines self-compassion as treating yourself with the same kindness you would show a good friend who is suffering. It involves recognizing your pain, understanding that suffering is part of the human experience, and responding to yourself with care rather than criticism. When you make a mistake or face a setback, instead of attacking yourself with harsh criticism, practice self-compassion. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Maybe you need comfort, understanding, encouragement, or simply acknowledgement that this is difficult. Give yourself what you need instead of what you think you deserve. Based on your perceived failures, the self-compassion break is a powerful tool. Place your hand on your heart and say, this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of life. May I be kind to myself. This simple practice activates your caregiving system and helps regulate your nervous system during difficult times. You are not your past. You are not your flaws. You are not your mistakes. You are a human being learning, growing, transforming, and you deserve compassion along the way. When you finally learn to give yourself the gentleness you have been giving to the world, you take your first true step toward loving yourself fully. Compassion is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the soil in which self-love grows. Self-care is the fourth pillar, and it goes far beyond bubble baths and spa days. True self-care means taking responsibility for your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. It means making choices that honor your needs and support your growth, even when those choices require discipline or courage. Physical self-care includes nourishing your body with healthy food, regular movement, adequate sleep, and medical care when needed. Emotional self-care involves creating boundaries, processing emotions in healthy ways, and surrounding yourself with positive influences. Mental self-care involves feeding your mind with stimulating, positive content while avoiding information and media that increase anxiety or negativity. Spiritual self-care, regardless of your religious beliefs, involves connecting with something larger than yourself and finding meaning and purpose in your life. It is about nourishing the part of you that seeks transcendence and connection. These four pillars work together synergistically. Self-awareness helps you identify areas where you need more acceptance, compassion, or care. Self-acceptance allows you to be honest about your needs without shame. Self-compassion provides the emotional safety to face difficult truths about yourself. Self-care ensures that you take concrete actions to support your well-being. Building this foundation takes time and consistency. Start with small daily practices in each area and gradually expand them as they become natural habits. Remember that self-love is not a destination, but a practice. You are not trying to achieve perfect self-love. You are committing to treating yourself with increasing kindness, understanding, and care each day. When you have strong self-awareness, genuine self-acceptance, consistent self-compassion, and attentive self-care, you become truly unshakable. External circumstances may challenge you, but your relationship with yourself remains solid and supportive. Chapter 6: The Inner Architect, Mastering Your Mind Against Criticism and Doubt. One of the greatest battles you will ever fight is the one that happens quietly inside your own mind. Not against other people's opinions, not against external challenges, but against the voice within you that doubts your worth, questions your choices, and criticizes your every move. That voice, often shaped by old wounds, old failures, and old fears, can become so familiar that you mistake it for truth. But if you want to love yourself more than anything else, you must learn to train your mind, strengthen your inner world, and take back control from the patterns that sabotage your peace. The inner critic is perhaps the most destructive force preventing you from loving yourself. It tells you that you are not good enough, smart enough, attractive enough, or successful enough. It reminds you of every mistake you have ever made and predicts future failures with devastating accuracy. For most people, this inner critic has become so familiar that they mistake it for their own voice, their own thoughts, their own truth. But here's what you need to understand. The inner critic is not you. It is a collection of internalized voices from your past, cultural programming, and survival mechanisms that once served a purpose, but now sabotage your happiness and success. Learning to identify, understand, and ultimately silence this voice is crucial for developing genuine self-love. Self-criticism often feels like responsibility, like discipline, like honesty. You tell yourself you are just trying to improve or keeping yourself accountable, but there is a difference between accountability and cruelty. Accountability pushes you forward. Self-cruelty keeps you stuck. Accountability says, here is what you can do better next time. Self-cruelty says, you will never get it right. And for far too long, you have been speaking to yourself in a way you would never speak to another person. To strengthen your mind, you first need to become aware of your internal dialogue. Notice how you speak to yourself in the quiet moments, after a mistake, after a setback, after someone criticizes you, after you feel insecure. Notice the tone, notice the harshness, notice the assumptions you make about yourself. You cannot change a voice you refuse to acknowledge. Awareness is step one. Then, once you become aware, you must challenge that voice. Ask yourself, is what I am saying to myself actually true? Or is it something I learned during a difficult season of my life? Something someone taught me? Something I assumed because I was hurting? Most self-doubt is not rooted in reality. It is rooted in fear. Most self-criticism is not grounded in facts. It is grounded in stories you have told yourself so many times that you feel real. Strengthening your mind requires rewriting those stories. You do not erase them. You replace them. When the voice of doubt says you are not enough, you respond with, I am learning. I am growing. I am becoming. When the voice of criticism says you always fail, you respond with, I have succeeded more times than I give myself credit for. When the voice of insecurity says, what if you are wrong? You respond with, what if I am capable of more than I think? You train your mind the same way you train a muscle. Repetition, consistency, intention. Your mind listens closely to what you say inside. And the longer you let those thoughts go unchallenged, the more they turn into habits that weaken your ability to grow, to feel proud, or even to try again when life gets hard. You do not choose which thoughts arrive in your head, but you do choose what to believe and what to feed. Not every thought deserves your attention, and not every idea you have is accurate. Just because you think something does not make it real. A thought is a suggestion, not a sentence. Learning to challenge what your mind throws at you takes effort, but it is the foundation of lasting change. It allows you to take control of your inner world. Instead of being ruled by automatic self-criticism, it is not about pretending that you are happy or pretending everything is fine. It is about telling yourself the truth in a way that supports growth rather than blocks it. Develop a compassionate inner voice to counter the critic. This voice speaks to you with the same kindness you would show a beloved friend facing difficulties. It acknowledges challenges without adding judgment. It encourages effort without demanding perfection. It offers comfort during setbacks instead of criticism. Practice the loving friend technique. When the inner critic attacks, ask yourself, what would I say to a dear friend in this situation? Then say those same compassionate words to yourself. This simple shift can transform your internal dialogue from enemy to ally. Set boundaries with your inner critic, just as you would with any toxic person in your life. When it starts its familiar rant, you can say, "Thank you for sharing, but I am not interested in your opinion right now." You can refuse to engage with its negativity and choose to focus on more constructive thoughts. Remember that the inner critic's job was to keep you safe and acceptable to others, but it is using outdated information and strategies that no longer serve you. You can acknowledge its original intention, while firmly setting it aside. You can say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I have got this handled now." As you strengthen your mind, you will notice a shift. Doubt loses its power. Criticism softens. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to believe in yourself more. You stop overthinking every decision. You stop replaying every mistake. You stop questioning your worth based on temporary experiences. You become your own source of stability rather than your own source of stress. When your mind becomes your ally, not your enemy, self-love becomes natural, peace becomes possible, and your life begins to expand in ways you never thought it could. Chapter 7: Emotional Resilience, Mastering Your Inner Landscape and Facing Fear. One of the biggest obstacles to self-love is the fear and rejection of your own emotions. Most people have been conditioned to view certain emotions as negative, inappropriate, or dangerous. They have learned to suppress, ignore, or judge their emotional experiences rather than understanding and working with them. This emotional disconnection creates internal conflict and prevents the deep self-acceptance that genuine self-love requires. To love yourself fully, you must learn to love all of yourself, including your emotional landscape. This does not mean indulging every emotion or acting on every feeling, but rather developing a healthy, mature relationship with your entire emotional range. Emotional mastery is not about control or suppression. It is about understanding, acceptance, and skillful response. Every emotion serves a purpose and carries important information about your needs, boundaries, and values. Anger tells you that something important to you is being threatened or violated. Sadness signals loss and the need for comfort and healing. Fear alerts you to potential danger and the need for protection or preparation. Joy indicates alignment with your values and desires. Even seemingly negative emotions like jealousy or shame carry valuable data about your unmet needs and areas for growth. When you reject your emotions, you reject parts of yourself. This creates internal fragmentation and self-rejection that undermines self-love. You cannot fully love yourself while simultaneously rejecting core aspects of your human experience. Emotional integration is essential for wholeness and authentic self-acceptance. Emotional suppression also has devastating consequences for your physical and mental health. Research shows that people who chronically suppress emotions have higher rates of heart disease, autoimmune disorders, and mental health issues. Suppressed emotions do not disappear, but they get stored in your body and unconscious mind where they create tension, illness, and destructive behavioral patterns. The first step in emotional mastery is developing emotional awareness. Most people are surprisingly disconnected from their emotional states, operating on autopilot without really noticing what they are feeling. They might know they feel bad or stressed, but cannot identify the specific emotions present or understand what triggered them. Start by checking in with yourself multiple times throughout the day. Ask, what am I feeling right now? Notice the physical sensations in your body, as emotions are felt as much as they are thought. Expand your emotional vocabulary beyond the basic categories of happy, sad, mad, and afraid. The more precisely you can identify your emotions, the better you can understand their messages and respond appropriately. Practice the RAAN technique for working with difficult emotions. RAIN stands for recognition, allowance, investigation, and non-identification. First, recognize what emotion is present without immediately trying to change or fix it. Then allow the emotion to be there without resistance or judgment. Investigate the emotion with curious compassion, noticing where you feel it in your body and what it might be trying to tell you. Finally, remember that you are not your emotions. You are the awareness that observes them. Emotional regulation does not mean controlling your emotions, but rather choosing how to respond to them skillfully. You can feel angry without becoming aggressive. You can experience sadness without becoming depressed. You can notice fear without becoming paralyzed. The emotion provides information, but you choose the action. Now, let us talk about fear. Fear is not the problem. Avoiding fear is the problem. Every time you avoid what scares you, you give it more control. You shrink your confidence. You limit your options, and you slow your growth. Fear does not leave on its own. It waits, it watches, and it grows when ignored. The only way to weaken fear is to face it. And the only way to face it without being overwhelmed is to do it gradually, step by step, moment by moment, challenge by challenge. Resilience is built through these steps, not through grand acts of bravery, but through steady, intentional movement toward discomfort. There is no secret formula to becoming fearless. You do not need to erase fear to live fully. You need to learn how to keep moving, even when fear is present. Resilience is not a trait you are born with. It is a skill you build when you stop backing down from the things that make you nervous, insecure, uncertain, or vulnerable. The key is to start small and stay consistent. You do not need to confront your biggest fear tomorrow. That would only trigger, overwhelm, and reinforce failure. But you can take a smaller version of that fear and face it in a way that feels manageable. You can speak up in a moment you would normally stay silent. You can try something new without needing to be perfect. You can sit with uncertainty without rushing to escape it. These are the actions that build emotional muscle. You take a small step, and another, until what once felt impossible becomes familiar. Every time you take a step into something difficult, you teach your nervous system that you are safe. Fear often tricks your body into reacting as if you are in danger, even when you are simply uncomfortable. When you take calm, steady action in the face of fear, your brain starts to update its response. It learns that discomfort is not the same as danger. That distinction is where courage begins to form, not as a lack of fear, but as a new understanding of it. Resilience is also built by changing how you talk to yourself during these moments. When you feel fear rising, your self-talk matters more than ever. If your inner voice says you are going to fail, you will hesitate. If it says this is too hard for you, you will retreat. But if it says you have handled hard things before, or this is just one step, not forever, you gain momentum. The words you use in the moment shape how far you go. You do not need loud confidence. You just need steady support from within. The truth is, you do not build strength by avoiding fear. You build it by walking through it with clarity and courage. Not to prove something to the world, but to prove to yourself that you are not fragile, not weak, and not limited to the past. Each time you show up for yourself, when it is hard, you become more grounded. You become someone you trust, and that trust turns into power, power that no one can take from you. As you develop emotional mastery, you will find that your relationship with yourself becomes more accepting and compassionate. You will stop judging yourself for having human emotions and start appreciating the rich, complex inner world that makes you who you are. This emotional integration is essential for deep, lasting self-love. Chapter 8: The Art of Sacred Boundaries. Honoring your needs and protecting your peace. One of the most powerful steps in learning to love yourself more than anything else is understanding this simple truth. People treat you the way you allow them to. Your standards act like the blueprint for every relationship in your life. Friendships, family, work, romance, even casual interactions. When your standards are low, you attract people who take advantage of that. When your standards are unclear, you attract chaos, confusion, and disappointment. But when your standards are high, when they are rooted in self-worth and backed by your actions, your entire world shifts because you no longer asking for respect, you are embodying it. Setting a standard begins with clarity. You cannot ask others to treat you well if you do not even know what well looks like for you. So ask yourself, what behavior do I accept that drains me? What treatment have I tolerated that hurt me? What patterns do I keep repeating because I am afraid to walk away? Most people do not lack self-love because they do not want it. They lack it because they never stop long enough to define what kind of behavior aligns with the life they want to live. Your standards are not built by your words. They are built by your actions. You can tell someone 1,000 times that you deserve respect, but if you continue to let disrespect slide, your actions speak louder. Setting a standard is not about controlling others. It is about controlling what you accept. It is about saying, this is who I am, this is what I allow, and this is what I will not permit in my life. And once you communicate that with your behavior, not just your voice, people either rise to meet your standard or they fall away. Both outcomes are forms of protection. The right people adjust because they value you. The wrong people leave because they can no longer benefit from your silence or your softness. Either way, you win. There is a quiet truth Most people never learn until life forces them to face it. You can love yourself deeply. You can set boundaries. You can heal your wounds. But if the life you build on the outside is not aligned with your needs on the inside, you will always feel out of place in your own world. Self-love cannot survive in an environment that contradicts it. Your needs matter. Not someday, not when things calm down, not when others approve, but right now. And building a life that honors those needs is one of the greatest acts of self-respect you will ever perform. Too many people live in lives that betray them. They stay in relationships that drain them because they fear loneliness. They stay in jobs that suffocate their spirit because they fear uncertainty. They keep habits that sabotage their peace because they fear change. They pretend they do not need rest because they fear being judged. And slowly, without even realizing it, they build a life that looks full on the outside, but feels empty on the inside. A life that is busy, but not meaningful, loud, but not fulfilling, impressive, but not aligned. Building a life that does not betray your needs begins with understanding those needs. Not the version of your needs will be taught to prioritize, but the honest ones, the needs you have ignored because you thought they were inconvenient or too much or not acceptable. What do you truly need in order to feel grounded? What do you need to feel emotionally safe? What do you need to feel fulfilled? What do you need to feel respected? These questions are not selfish. They are essential because your needs are the blueprint of your well-being. When you honor them, you thrive. When you ignore them, you suffer quietly. There is a moment in everyone's life when they finally realize that peace is not something you stumble into. It is something you build, something you refuse to negotiate. And until you learn to protect your peace, truly protect it, you will always feel like life is heavier than it needs to be. Peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the absence of unnecessary chaos, unnecessary noise, unnecessary stress, unnecessary people, and unnecessary battles. Peace is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're no longer available for anything that steals your emotional stability. Protecting your peace begins with recognizing what disturbs it. Who leaves you feeling anxious after every conversation? What responsibilities drain your spirit more than they contribute to your growth? One of the biggest threats to your peace is overcommitment. Saying yes because you do not want to disappoint people. Saying yes because you want to be liked. Saying yes because you feel guilty. Saying no. But every unnecessary yes you give to others becomes a silent no toward yourself. Protecting your peace requires learning to say no without explaining, without apologizing, without overthinking. No is a complete sentence, and using it wisely is a powerful act of self-love. Another threat to your peace is engaging in battles that do not matter. Not every disagreement requires your energy. Not every criticism deserves your response. Protecting your peace means walking away from arguments that do nothing but drain your spirit. It means choosing silence over proving a point. It means allowing people to misunderstand you because you no longer need validation to feel grounded. You do not need to explain yourself endlessly when you decide to protect your energy. A simple, "I cannot do that right now," or "that does not work for me," is enough. The people who truly care about your well-being will not need you to justify every decision. They will respect your limits, even if they are disappointed. And if someone constantly pushes against your boundaries, it is worth asking what they really want from you, connection or control. You do not owe anyone constant access to your emotional availability. You are not a bottomless well. You are a human being who deserves space to breathe. Sometimes boundaries mean stepping back from people you love. That is hard. But love without boundaries turns into self-sacrifice. It is not about cutting people off. It is about creating enough distance to protect your peace. Prioritizing yourself does not mean you love others any less. It means you're learning how to include yourself in the care you so freely give. You're done believing that your well-being only matters when there is nothing else to do. You deserve to have space to breathe without rushing to fix everything around you. You deserve to take breaks without feeling lazy. 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 You deserve to take breaks. These are not luxuries. They are essentials for a balanced and meaningful life, and no one else is going to protect those essentials for you. That responsibility is yours, and it is time to take it seriously. As you begin to protect your peace more fiercely, you will notice a shift. You will become calmer. Your decisions will become clearer. Your days will feel lighter. You will no longer wake up with a knot in your chest or go to bed with an overactive mind. You will feel more present, more grounded, more connected to yourself. Protect your peace like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Chapter 9. Architects of Your Well-Being. Daily Habits for a Respected Self. If you truly want to love yourself more than anything else, you must make decisions today that the future version of you will thank you for. Self-love is not just emotional, it is practical. It is built through choices, patterns, and daily behaviors that either move you closer to the life you want or pull you deeper into the life you are trying to grow out of. And one of the most powerful ways to show your self-love is by choosing habits that honor your future, not just your present feelings. Most people live in a cycle of habits that comfort their current emotions but sabotage their long-term happiness. You procrastinate because you are tired. You stay up late scrolling because you are overwhelmed. You tolerate unhealthy relationships because you are lonely. You break your own boundaries because you do not want conflict. And though these choices soothe the moment, they do not support your future. In fact, they often make the future harder. Honoring your future self means thinking beyond the feeling you have today. It means asking yourself, what will my life look like if I continue these habits for another year, another 5 years? Most people never ask that question because if they did, the answer would push them towards change. Your habits are not random. They are shaping your destiny. Every repeated action becomes a brick in the foundation of who you are becoming. Choosing habits that honor your future self does not require perfection. It requires intention. It requires choosing the long-term benefit over short-term comfort. It requires reminding yourself that you deserve the life you are proud of, even if it takes discipline to build it. Growth is not about sudden transformation. It is about consistent choices that add up over time. Think about how you feel when you break promises to yourself. When you say you will stop tomorrow and tomorrow never comes. When you say you will stop accepting certain behavior and then you tolerate it again. There is a very specific heaviness that comes with that kind of self-betrayal. Over time, that heaviness becomes part of your identity. Now, think about the opposite. Think about how you feel when you follow through, even in small ways. Each time you follow through, even just once, you reinforce the belief that you can trust yourself, and trust leads to respect. This is how self-respect is built, not by grand gestures, but by repeated moments of integrity. Making self-respect your daily commitment also means choosing behaviors that support your future, not undermine it. It means letting go of habits that sabotage your peace or your progress. It means recognizing that every choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. And let us be clear, self-respect is not always comfortable. Sometimes it means doing the hard thing, the disciplined thing, when your emotions are begging you for the easy way out. Growth is rarely comfortable, but it is always worth it. You cannot separate self-love from self-respect. They depend on each other. When you lose respect for yourself, your love weakens. When your love weakens, your confidence fades. When your confidence fades, your boundaries crumble. But when you make self-respect a daily commitment, you rebuild everything. Your sense of identity, your emotional strength, your confidence, and your stability. Feeling better mentally is not about chasing big, overwhelming changes. It is about showing up for yourself in the small moments, over and over again. When you wake up in the morning, your first thoughts often set the tone for your day. So instead of diving straight into stress or comparison or distraction, give yourself a moment of quiet. Breathe deeply, stretch slowly, drink some water. Remind yourself, I am allowed to start slow. I do not have to rush to be worthy. These are simple actions, but they signal something important. You matter, even in the stillness. Throughout the day, mental wellness is shaped by what you consume, not just in food, but in thoughts, conversations, and information. Pay attention to how you feel after watching certain videos, reading certain posts, or talking to certain people. If something leaves you anxious, tense, or self-critical, that is a signal to create distance. You are allowed to protect your peace. Movement also plays a role, not because of how it changes your body, but because of how it shifts your state of mind. A walk around your block, some light stretching, or even dancing alone in your room can reconnect you to your body and lift your mood. Movement releases tension that often lingers after stress, creating a daily ritual that centers your spirit. is one of the most profound ways to nurture your well-being and strengthen your connection to yourself. A ritual is more than a routine. It is a deliberate practice that grounds you, restores balance, and aligns your energy with your intentions. When life's demands feel overwhelming, a consistent ritual becomes a sanctuary that refreshes your mind, body, and soul. This practice cultivates presence, clarity, and peace, empowering you to face each day with resilience and purpose. Consistency is the foundation of a powerful ritual. Engaging in your chosen practice daily, even briefly, builds momentum and transforms it from a task into a cherished habit. You do not have to master all of this at once. You do not have to be perfect. What matters is consistency. What matters is showing up for your mind in ways that build strength over time. It is okay to have days where you forget, days where things feel too heavy, but as long as you return to yourself, you are moving in the right direction. These daily habits are not chores, they are choices, and each time you choose them, you are building something stronger inside you. You are telling yourself, I am worth the effort it takes to feel better, and you are. Chapter 10. Cultivating Connection. Self-love in your relationships and community. As you grow, as you heal, as you begin to love yourself in deeper and more honest ways, you will notice something very clearly. Not everyone around you will grow with you. Not everyone will celebrate your evolution. Not everyone will understand the shifts you are making. And that is okay, because this chapter of your life requires something essential: choosing relationships that honor who you are becoming, not just who you used to be. You cannot build a life of self-love while staying in environments that contradict your growth. You cannot expect to rise while surrounding yourself with people who pull you back down. You cannot expect peace while spending your time with those who thrive on chaos. You cannot expect self-respect while staying close to people who do not respect you. The company you keep shapes your self-perception more than you realize. The relationship you have with yourself is the template for every other relationship in your life. If you are constantly critical, demanding, and unforgiving with yourself, you will likely attract partners and friends who treat you the same way. If you do not respect your own boundaries, others will not respect them either. If you do not believe you deserve love and kindness, you will unconsciously choose relationships that confirm this belief. Many people enter relationships from a place of neediness and emptiness, hoping that another person will provide the love, validation, and acceptance they cannot give themselves. This creates what psychologists call codependent relationships, where both people are trying to use the other to feel complete. These relationships are inherently unstable because they are based on deficit rather than strength. When you love yourself, you enter relationships as a whole person rather than a half person looking for completion. You bring gifts, love, and joy to share rather than needs and wounds that require healing. This completely changes the dynamic from taking to giving, from neediness to generosity, from fear to love. Self-love also gives you the ability to be truly vulnerable in relationships. Vulnerability requires emotional safety, and you cannot feel emotionally safe with others if you do not feel emotionally safe with yourself. Healthy boundaries are perhaps the most important relationship skill that emerges from self-love. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They are guidelines that teach others how to treat you. When you love yourself, you naturally protect your energy, time, and emotional well-being. You say no to requests that drain you, and yes to experiences that nourish you. Self-love also helps you choose relationships more wisely. When you are desperate for love and validation, you often settle for relationships that are convenient or available rather than truly compatible and healthy. But when you love yourself, you enjoy your own company and are not afraid of solitude. This removes the desperation that leads to poor relationship choices. You can be selective about who you invest your time and energy in, choosing people who add value to your life, rather than people who simply fill a void. Romantic relationships are particularly transformed by self-love. You stop looking for someone to complete you and start looking for someone to complement you. You can love deeply without losing yourself in the relationship. You can maintain your individual identity while creating genuine intimacy. You attract partners who are also whole and secure, rather than needy and codependent. Surrounding yourself with people who support growth is one of the most intentional choices you can make to foster continuous improvement. These relationships become a foundation that uplifts you when you struggle, challenges you when you get comfortable, and inspires you to aim higher. Supportive people do not simply cheer from the sidelines. They actively contribute to your development. They listen without judgment, offer honest feedback, and celebrate your successes without envy. This kind of encouragement makes it easier to take risks and face obstacles because you know you have allies. In contrast, surrounding yourself with negative or stagnant individuals can drain your energy and keep you stuck in patterns of self-doubt or complacency. Your social circle shapes your beliefs about what is possible and what you deserve. It is important to be proactive in building these supportive relationships. Sometimes growth-minded individuals are not immediately present in your current environment. You may need to seek out communities, groups, or mentors that align with your values and goals. This could be through educational workshops, professional networks, online forums, or local interest groups. Taking the initiative to connect with people who inspire you demonstrates your commitment to your own growth. It signals that you are ready to be part of a community that elevates rather than limits you. Supporting others' growth is also a vital part of this dynamic. Relationships thrive when there is mutual encouragement and generosity. When you celebrate others' progress and offer your support, you strengthen the bonds and create a positive feedback loop. This reciprocity builds trust and deepens connections. Your commitment to surrounding yourself with growth-oriented people reflects your commitment to yourself. It is an act of self-care and strategic investment in your future. The company you keep shapes not only your opportunities, but also how you see yourself. Being part of a community that believes in potential and transformation encourages you to believe in yourself. This sense of belonging and shared purpose becomes a powerful engine for sustained change. Remember this: You become like the people you surround yourself with. Choose wisely. Surround yourself with people who respect your evolution, and your evolution will accelerate. Surround yourself with people who see your worth, and you will begin to see it more clearly too. Surround yourself with people who love you and your growth, and you will learn to love yourself more deeply than ever before. Chapter 11. The Journey of Triumph, Progress, Joy, and Authentic Success. Most people believe they need to achieve success in order to love themselves. They think that once they reach a certain income level, relationship status, or social recognition, they will finally feel worthy of their own love and acceptance. But this backwards approach guarantees perpetual satisfaction because external achievements can never fill the void of internal self-rejection. The truth, exactly the opposite. Self-love is the foundation of genuine, sustainable success. When you truly love yourself, you make decisions from a place of strength rather than fear. You pursue opportunities that align with your authentic desires rather than what you think will impress others. You persist through challenges because your sense of worth is not dependent on outcomes. You take risks because you know you can handle whatever happens. Self-love creates what psychologists call an internal locus of control, meaning you recognize that your happiness and success come primarily from your own choices and efforts rather than external circumstances. This mindset is one of the strongest predictors of achievement in every area of life because it motivates consistent action and resilience in the face of setbacks. When you do not love yourself, you are constantly seeking validation through achievement. This creates a scarcity mindset where you believe there is not enough success, love, or recognition to go around. But when you love yourself, you operate from abundance rather than scarcity. You celebrate others' success because their achievements do not threaten your worth. You collaborate effectively because you are not trying to prove your value through competition. You take calculated risks because you are motivated by growth and contribution rather than by the need to prove yourself. Self-love also eliminates the self-sabotage that derails so many people just as they are about to achieve their goals. When you truly love yourself, you believe you deserve good things, and your actions align with this belief. You follow through on commitments to yourself. You invest in your growth and development. One of the quietest but most damaging habits people develop is the inability to acknowledge their own growth. You move through life achieving small victories, breaking old patterns, healing wounds, becoming more aware, more grounded, more intentional. Yet you dismiss it all because it is not perfect. It is not big enough. You overlook the progress you have made because you are too focused on the progress you have not made yet. And nothing will drain your spirit faster than treating your journey like it is never enough. But here is a truth many people never learn. Self-love grows when you recognize your progress, not when you achieve perfection. Perfection is unreachable. Progress is real, measurable, and meaningful. Progress is something you experience every time you take one small step in the right direction. Celebrating your progress does not mean settling. It means acknowledging that you are moving forward, even if slowly, even if imperfectly, even if you are not where you want to be yet. Growth is not defined by speed. It is defined by direction. And as long as you are moving toward a better version of yourself, you are succeeding. There is a quiet power in gratitude that most people overlook. It is not about pretending everything is perfect or ignoring the hard parts of life. It is about choosing to look at yourself and your life through a softer, more honest lens. When you start practicing gratitude deliberately, something in you begins to shift. You stop focusing only on what is missing, what is wrong, or what has not happened yet. Instead, you start recognizing what is working, what is improving, and what already exists within you. And when you do that consistently, it deepens your self-respect and renews your sense of worth. Gratitude allows you to see yourself as more than your flaws. It helps you focus on your growth, your resilience, your effort, even when the outcomes have not turned out exactly the way you hoped. You begin to appreciate how far you've come, instead of constantly measuring how far you still have to go. That shift changes everything. It helps you move from self-criticism to self-recognition, from comparison to acceptance, from doubt to acknowledgement. No one else is coming to save you from unhappiness. That truth might sound harsh at first, but it is also deeply freeing. The moment you stop waiting for others to fix your life, your past, or your emotions, you begin to reclaim your power. Happiness is not something someone can give you. It is something you build with small choices, daily decisions, and a deep commitment to stop abandoning yourself. If you keep tying your happiness to someone else's actions, words, or approval, you will always feel out of control. Taking responsibility does not mean taking blame for things that were outside your control. It simply means you are no longer waiting for external conditions to create internal peace. You are learning how to respond to life rather than react to it. You are choosing to build your happiness from the inside out, one conscious step at a time. Celebrating small wins is one of the most powerful ways to build lasting confidence and motivation. These small victories are the building blocks of progress. When you acknowledge them, you reinforce your belief that you are capable, resilient, and moving forward. Ignoring them means missing out on important moments of growth and self-affirmation that can keep you energized on your journey. When you celebrate a small win, you are telling yourself that your effort matters, no matter how modest it seems. This shifts your mindset from feeling overwhelmed by what still needs to be done to feeling empowered by what you have already accomplished. Confidence is not something that appears out of nowhere. It develops slowly through repeated successes, no matter the size. Investing time in activities that bring genuine joy is essential for a balanced and fulfilling existence. When you prioritize what lights you up, you recharge your spirit and create an inner reserve of happiness that sustains you through challenges. This is not about fleeting pleasures or distractions, but about engaging deeply with things that resonate with your core values and passions. Joy is a signal from your soul, reminding you of what matters most, and responding to it is an act of self-respect and self-love. Many people believe joy is a luxury, reserved for after everything else is done. But this mindset often leads to burnout and disconnection. By intentionally carving out time for joyful activities, you reclaim control over your emotional well-being. This investment creates a ripple effect, improving your mental health, boosting creativity, and enhancing your relationships. Joy is not just a reward. It is a vital part of the human experience that fuels your growth and resilience. Ultimately, focusing on progress rather than perfection creates a more enjoyable and sustainable path to growth. It allows you to celebrate the journey, build confidence, and cultivate resilience. This approach acknowledges your humanity and embraces your potential. When you commit to progress, you empower yourself to keep evolving, learning, and thriving, no matter the challenges you face. Chapter 12. Unshakable You. Thriving through challenges and advanced self-love. The ultimate test of your self-love is not how you treat yourself when everything is going well, but how you respond to yourself during life's inevitable storms. Everyone faces periods of crisis, failure, rejection, loss, and uncertainty. These challenging times reveal whether your self-love is superficial and conditional, or deep and unshakable. Learning to maintain self-compassion during difficulties is what separates temporary self-improvement from genuine transformation. Many people practice self-love only when they feel they deserve it. They are kind to themselves when they are successful, productive, or meeting their own expectations. But the moment that they fail, make mistakes, or face setbacks, their self-compassion disappears and is replaced by harsh criticism and judgment. This conditional self-love is actually no love at all, but rather another form of perfectionism disguised as self-care. Genuine self-love is unconditional. It means treating yourself with kindness and understanding, especially when you are struggling, failing, or facing challenges. It means being your own best friend during your darkest moments, rather than your own worst enemy. The storms of life often trigger our deepest wounds and oldest patterns of self-rejection. A job loss might activate childhood feelings of inadequacy. A relationship ending might trigger abandonment fears. Understanding this process is crucial because it helps you recognize that your self-critical thoughts during difficult times are not necessarily true or helpful. They are often trauma responses, old programming, or the brain's attempt to regain control in an uncertain situation. When you can see these thoughts as symptoms of stress rather than accurate assessments of your worth, you can respond to them with compassion rather than belief. The practice of self-love during storms begins with accepting your humanity. When you can normalize your struggles rather than seeing them as evidence of personal failure, you create space for self-compassion to emerge. Once you have established the foundation of self-love, it is time to develop advanced practices that create unshakable confidence and deep self-acceptance. These techniques go beyond basic self-care and positive thinking to address the unconscious patterns and core beliefs that determine how you show up in the world. Mastering these practices will transform you into someone who radiates authentic confidence and attracts success naturally. The first advanced practice is shadow work, which involves identifying and integrating the parts of yourself that you have rejected or hidden. Everyone has aspects of their personality that they consider unacceptable or shameful. These rejected parts do not disappear when you deny them. They operate unconsciously, creating internal conflict and self-sabotage. Shadow work involves acknowledging these rejected aspects with compassion and finding healthy ways to express them. The practice of loving your flaws is another advanced technique that creates profound self-acceptance. Instead of trying to fix or hide your imperfections, you learn to appreciate them as part of your unique humanity. This does not mean becoming complacent or refusing to grow. It means accepting yourself as you are right now, while working toward who you want to become. Advanced self-love also involves developing what psychologists call unconditional, positive regard for yourself. This means maintaining love and respect for yourself regardless of your behavior, emotions, or circumstances. Even when you make mistakes, act badly, or fail to meet your own standards, your fundamental worth remains intact. This unconditional acceptance creates the emotional safety necessary for honest self-reflection and genuine growth. The practice of internal reparenting is crucial for healing childhood wounds that continue to affect your self-relationship. If you did not receive the love, attention, or validation you needed as a child, you can learn to provide these things for yourself now. This involves developing different internal voices: a nurturing parent who offers comfort and care, a wise parent who provides guidance and boundaries, and a protective parent who advocates for your needs and safety. When you feel hurt or scared, visualization and mental rehearsal become powerful tools for building unshakable confidence. Your brain cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. So, you can literally program confidence into your nervous system through consistent visualization practice. Spend time each day imagining yourself handling challenges with grace, speaking up for yourself confidently, and achieving your goals with ease. The more real you make these mental rehearsals, the more your brain accepts them as actual experiences and adjusts your self-concept accordingly. Setbacks are an inevitable part of life, yet they often feel like personal failures or dead ends. Viewing them through the lens of growth transforms these challenges into powerful opportunities for learning and resilience. Instead of letting setbacks discourage or define you, using them as lessons creates a mindset that embraces struggle as an essential step towards strength. This perspective shifts your focus from what went wrong to what can be gained, fostering a spirit of perseverance that builds character and fuels progress. The first step in turning setbacks into lessons is acknowledging the reality of the situation without denial or self-blame. Every setback contains valuable information about your strategies, decisions, or external conditions. Taking time to analyze what led to the outcome helps you uncover insights that might otherwise go unnoticed. Taking care of yourself is essential, yet many struggle with the idea that prioritizing self-care is selfish or a sign of weakness. This mindset needs to change because caring for yourself lays the foundation for all other aspects of life. When you nurture your body, mind, and emotions, you strengthen your ability to face challenges, support others, and pursue your goals. Understanding that self-care is a vital act of responsibility rather than indulgence is key to living a balanced and fulfilled life. Prioritizing your well-being equips you with the resilience and strength needed to contribute meaningfully in all areas of life. When doubt creeps in, It often brings harsh and critical thoughts that shake your confidence and cloud your judgment. Speaking kindly to yourself during these moments is a powerful tool that restores calm and reinforces your inner strength. It means replacing self-criticism with compassion and understanding, creating a mental environment where you can navigate uncertainty with grace instead of fear. This gentle inner voice acts like a trusted friend, encouraging you to keep moving forward, even when the path feels unclear or challenging. Finally, committing fully to loving yourself through challenges transforms adversity into opportunity. It deepens your connection to your inner strength and fuels ongoing personal evolution. This commitment empowers you to face life with resilience, grace, and unwavering self-respect, creating a foundation for lasting fulfillment. Conclusion. Loving yourself more than anything else is not an event. It is not a moment of clarity or a sudden breakthrough. It is a lifelong practice, a daily decision to stand on your own side, no matter what happens. As you have moved through this journey chapter by chapter, you have learned something central. Self-love is built through small acts of truth, courage, compassion, and alignment, repeated over time. It is not something you wait to feel. It is something you choose to embody. Throughout this audiobook, you have explored the parts of yourself that you once ignored. You have confronted the lies you believed about your worth. You have stopped abandoning yourself for approval. You have set standards and boundaries that reflect your value. You have learned to speak to yourself with gentleness, to heal wounds you have carried for years, and to release versions of yourself that no longer serve you. You have begun choosing habits that honor your future, surrounding yourself with people who respect your evolution, building a life that does not betray your needs, and protecting your peace as if it were the most precious thing you own, because it is. Now you stand at a new beginning, a place where you are no longer defined by who you used to be, a place where you understand that growth is not about perfection, but about persistence. A place so for pay 5 fees, that you deserve the love, respect, patience, and compassion you have always given to others, and that truth, that deep, unshakable truth, is what will carry you forward. But remember this, you will still have hard days. You will still have moments of doubt. You will still feel fear, uncertainty, exhaustion, and confusion at times. That does not mean you have lost progress. It means you are human. On those days, return to yourself. Return to your boundaries. Return to your values. Return to your values. Return to the practices that ground you. And most importantly, return to the commitment you made. The commitment to never abandon yourself again. Self-love is not a destination you arrive at. It is a relationship you cultivate. A relationship with yourself built on honesty, respect, patience, and care. Like any relationship, it grows stronger through attention. It grows deeper through consistency. It grows richer through presence. As you step forward from here, carry this with you. You are worthy for life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. You are worthy of relationships feel safe. You are worthy of peace that lasts. You are worthy of boundaries that protect you. You are worthy of future that reflects your growth. And you are worthy of loving yourself fully, not someday, not when you fix everything, but now. This is your turning point, your invitation to live differently, to choose yourself boldly, to honor yourself daily, to become someone you are proud to love. You do not need to wait until you have perfected self-love or overcome every insecurity. Your most loved self is available to you in this moment. You can choose self-compassion over self-criticism right now. You can set a boundary that honors your worth today. You can express your authentic truth in your very next conversation. The world needs your most loved self. It needs your unique gifts, your authentic perspective, and your full presence. It needs the love that flows naturally from someone who has learned to love themselves completely. It needs the example you provide for what is possible when someone commits fully to their own growth and well-being. The journey continues from here, and you are ready. The choice is yours, and the time is now. Your most loved self is waiting for you to step forward and claim the life that loving yourself makes possible. Everything you have ever wanted begins with learning to love yourself more than anyone else.